Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, and in today's how-to video, I'm going to show you how to color using alcohol-based markers. There are a lot of differences between alcohol-based markers, regular markers, and all of the other coloring techniques that can be used. But in today's video, I'm going to go over how to use alcohol-based markers, how to use it so that there's not streakiness, and so on and so forth. I hope you enjoy. To begin, you'll need a few furry friends to keep you company, a few coloring books. I prefer these coloring books because the photos are a little bigger. You'll see as I open it, everything is not as intricate, which allows easier use of the markers. I decided to go with this picture. I like the kind of beach vibe that it has going on, especially because we're getting closer to summer. And then I'm going to go into the back of the coloring book and I'm going to get out an extra sheet of paper so that you can use this to create your color palette. Here I am testing out each marker and deciding what markers I want to use for this. Now these are the alcohol-based markers I use. I got these ones off of Amazon and I found that I like these a lot because they don't create a sort of streakiness. And I know here I'm showing that the markers are kind of drawn out, so I could follow that, but personally I feel like putting all the colors down, creating my own color story just allows for something to be created and look more cohesive. So I'm just testing these ones out, kind of deciding what I like and what I don't like, putting those back that I don't, and going from there. A couple colors that I pull out and put back, I'm kind of iffy about them and I didn't know if I wanted to use them or not. The difference between coloring with alcohol-based markers and regular markers are the possibility of blending. So here you'll see that I am outlining with a darker gray and shading in with a lighter gray. It's not as easy to do that with regular markers because they're not alcohol-based, but you'll see as I go back and forth, and I do mess up a little bit here, that I am really ensuring that the marker hasn't dried. I want it to all blend together, very cohesive, so I don't allow the marker to dry when I'm shading in. As I go in here, I'm not using the outlining and shading technique. I'm just using one different color for all of the lines and swirls here. That's just personal preference. In my mind, I thought it would look a little bit better for the rocks to be shaded in like that and not the tower. I feel like when you do everything outlined with a darker color and then shaded in, it kind of makes the picture hard to look at. I do that on top, but it's just in the top and the bottom that I'm doing that specific technique. Thank you guys for watching and I hope you enjoyed.